artificielle, on se demande si on n'est pas littéralement en train de polluer l'espace.
Continuerait d'exploiter l'entreprise. Bref,
Je pensais bris de condition, agression armée, menace, fuite, conduite dangereuse et...
And I just said, I don't want you to play that game anymore. It was just in the midst of everything this summer. And, you know, God bless him. He was just like, why? And I said, because it makes me really sad. And so he like closed up the iPad and was fine with that. And then he came over and we talked about it. And I said, what makes somebody a criminal? What makes somebody a cop? What is a cop? I mean, so we had this conversation about, you know, just in terms of he said, it's not seven. But, you know, just try to use it as an example of just saying, you know, things aren't always black and white.
To try to, people are listening to you.
Weeks, and the very grave danger of a wider conflict.
But in the years that you've chaired discussions trying to resolve this conflict, what conciliatory noises have you actually heard from either side?
Well, there has to be the intent on the part of the president of Azerbaijan and the prime minister of Armenia to have a settlement. They have given lip service to the basic principles and finding a way towards ending the conflict. But there has not, in many years, been the kind of sustained negotiation that's needed to resolve the outstanding issues.
Have you seen the effects of the conflict for yourself? Presumably, all the negotiating parties need to have experienced the midst of this violence to do good now. Well,
I've been to Nagorno-Karabakh and the territories many times as co-chair, and it's a picture out of World War I, with trenches and barbed wire and tanks, and now heavy artillery. This is a dangerous area where the parties are separated only by a few hundred meters. So it's a powder keg, and what we're seeing is, that it can explode any time.
One big problem here, one side is winning. Why would Azerbaijan want to quit while they're ahead, as it were?
Well, I wouldn't use the word winning. They may be gaining territory in Nagorno-Karabakh, but at a great price. And they're fighting for territory literally meter by meter. And the Armenians are fierce fighters. If this is going to be resolved on the ground, there are going to be an extremely high number of casualties. And no doubt it will risk the possibility of drawing in Armenia's and Azerbaijan's neighbors.
Former US Ambassador James Warlick, who used to co-chair the Minsk group along with Russia and France to resolve the ongoing conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh. That was News Hour. Thank you for listening. Goodbye for now.
If you've been having really bizarre dreams during the pandemic, then you'll want to check out Science Friday for sure. That's on today at 2 on VPR. It's a minute before 10 on Point up next, also a news update. And VPR has support from Dr. Ryan Rogers, Marble Valley Eye Care oculoplastic surgeon, treating eyelid lesions, droopy eyelids, eye spasm, and general eye care. And from VPR's listeners.
This is listener-supported Vermont Public Radio.
WRVT Rutland at 88.7.
WVPR Windsor at 89.5.
WVBA Brattleboro at 88.9.
WBTN FM Bennington at 94.3.
WVPS Burlington at 107.9.
WVPA St. Johnsbury at 88.5.
In Manchester at 106.9.
Online at vpr.org and on your smart speaker.
Major funding for On Point is provided by Geico, offering auto insurance coverage for cars, trucks, or SUVs, and providing 24/7 customer service. More information on auto insurance at geico.com or 1-800-947-AUTO.
From NPR and WBUR, I'm Meghna Chakrabarti. Today on Point.
There's no better, no more appropriate place to hold a drive-in rally than in Motor City, USA.
And the bottom line is I do believe the outcome of this race will, in very many ways be decided by you, North Carolina.
I love this particular state, but I might not have come here so often. I've been all over your state. You better let me win.
Thank you for trudging through the mud, standing in the rain. It is great to be back in the Wolverine State.
We'll make sense of a week of campaign spending, signals, and strategy as the end of voting nears. Stay with us.
Live from NPR News, I'm Corva Coleman. President Trump and Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden held their final debate last night in Nashville. They disagreed over the handling of the coronavirus pandemic. Trump wants to reopen the country to business despite a climbing infection rate. Biden says a national strategy is needed to fight the disease. Now that the debate is over, the presidential candidates are zeroing in on key swing states. NPR's Franco Ordonez reports on their weekend plans.
President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden now enter the final sprint to the election. Both are returning to the campaign trail. Biden is scheduled to give a speech in Delaware on the economy and the coronavirus, while Trump takes a swing through Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, Wisconsin, and New Hampshire.
It's no longer really about persuading people to support one candidate or another. I mean, yes, persuasion's important, but ultimately moving your base and getting them out to vote is critical.
That's Brett Doster, a veteran Republican strategist. He says the debate was the last chance for the candidates to show a contrast. With just 12 days to go, the focus is now on voter turnout. Franco Ordonez, NPR News.
Stocks opened modestly higher this morning as investors digest the results of the final presidential debate. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the Dow Jones Industrials rose about 10 points in early trading.
It appears last night's debate did little to change the direction of the presidential race, with less than 2 weeks of voting left, and Wall Street seems fine with that. Financial markets showed little immediate reaction to the debate, which was much more civilized than the candidates' first encounter 3 weeks earlier. Asian shares were mostly higher overnight. Indexes rose in Japan, South Korea, and Hong Kong, but fell in mainland China. Stock in Gilead Sciences got a boost overnight after the FDA granted formal approval to the company's COVID-19 drug, remdesivir. It's the only approved treatment for patients who've been hospitalized with COVID-19. Remdesivir had previously been authorized only for emergency use. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The State Department is temporarily closing all its diplomatic missions in Turkey. The U.S. Embassy cites credible reports of potential terrorist attacks. NPR's Peter Kenyon says these reports include possible attacks and kidnappings of U.S. citizens.
There was no immediate word on how long visa, embassy, and consular services for American citizens will be suspended. The reports cited Istanbul as a potential site for attacks, quote, as well as other locations in Turkey. In 2008, 3 Turkish guards were killed in an armed attack on the Istanbul consulate, and in 1958, the embassy compound in the Turkish capital was bombed.
NPR's Peter Kenyon reporting from Istanbul. On Wall Street, the Dow is up 20 points at 28,384. The Nasdaq is down 51 points at 11,454. This is NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Drexel University. Drexel's academic model is designed to prepare visionary leaders to address the challenges of a changing world. More at drexel.edu/ambition can't wait.
I'm Mary Carol Magazzini with VPR News. Montpelier's Union Elementary School will move to remote learning today after another positive COVID-19 case was identified. WCAX reports the Montpelier-Roxbury district reported 2 positive cases at the elementary school last week. 4 more cases were announced Monday, all from the same classroom. Health officials this week confirmed a link between the Central Vermont hockey outbreak and the school's positive cases. School officials will meet with the Department of Health today to start contact tracing. The head of Vermont's Teachers Union wants to see the state's recommended COVID-19 safety protocols for schools become requirements. Vermont NEA President Don Tinney says too much has been left up to interpretation by individual districts, particularly around physical distancing in classrooms.
It was initially the requirement was 6 feet to physically distance properly. And now we know that there are some students are 2.5 to 3 feet. that's not what the intention was. So I think we need to be really clear about what the requirements are.
So far, just 13 COVID-19 cases have been connected to Vermont's K-12 schools. Transmission of the virus within a school has been detected in only one location, Montpelier's Union Elementary School. The Berlin Police Department has a new chief of police. The Times-Argus reports Detective James Pontbrand with the Barrie City Police will become the Berlin chief next month. Pontbrand joined the Barrie City Police in 2010 as its canine handler. He was later promoted to detective. He starts his new role as Berlin chief on November 23rd. After 20 years, a bovine Brattleboro tradition is suspending operations. The Strolling of the Heifers Board of Directors made the announcement yesterday. The board says the decision is due to the financial impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The organization's signature event was its annual parade and festival in Brattleboro, which was canceled this year. Despite suspending operations, the board says it will evaluate future programs. For VPR News, I'm Mary Carol Maganzini.